very much, Derek. My name is Paul Turyagumanawe. Try pronouncing it if you don't come from these Gorilla Highlands of Uganda. And what a pleasure it is this evening to be sharing with such a community of inspired birders. My analogy for this evening is considering the kind of speakers we've had on the forum, including people who have inspired me to go birding, like the ladies, Abia and Judith, and the others who have been presenting, the professors. My analogy this evening is the story that is told to us on the fireplaces of a party that happened. And this was a party for the animals. And so they asked everyone to bring their contribution. And so the firefinch, the little firefinch, brought a drop of milk. And they asked the firefinch, look at yourself and your contribution, and look at the elephant's share of milk that it has brought. Firefinch looks at them and says, you see, you also need to look at the size of my thigh. and they burst out laughing because they knew what it meant. So the size of the bird, the size of the thigh, sometimes determines the size of the contribution. And hopefully my contribution tonight will be worth the party that has been set rolling by so many who have come before me. Thanks again, Derek, for considering me worthy of this. So Paul Turyagumanawe is my name. During COVID, I started birding seriously, because you can't guide in Uganda, which, according to one of the guidebook writers, says it's a garden end to end. You can't guide here without knowing the birds. So during COVID, I had the precious opportunity of getting very serious about the birds, and even starting to work on a book on bird behavior. It's coming. It's going slow because you think you know a lot about bird behavior until you start researching, and it quickly becomes overwhelming. And so I started on a book, and interestingly, the book started on me. And I thought I was writing it, it was writing me. I got so fired up that I now leave home and I'm gone for days. Something I used to think, wow, how do you leave your home and go birding for days? And so for this presentation, I actually ganged up a few friends, and we went on a 10-day trip to 3 forests that I'll be highlighting later. A Chuya forest, which is nearest to me, to where I live in the Gorilla Highlands. We went on to Gahinga Gorilla National Park, one of the smallest national parks in Uganda. And then we went to Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, one of those precious forests that any birder should come to bird. And so we did 10 days there, and I took some of the photographs. And I'm glad to tell you that some of these photographs are actually virgin. They haven't been seen before. You'll be seeing them today for the first time. They've only been seen by me, and possibly by one other, who is my other half. So Paul Turyagumanawe Safari Support Services, and in the picture right there is a nest. There's a nest of a bird called the striped-breasted tit, one of the endemics of the Albertine Rift. I'll tell you the story later when I show it to you on the screen. So, Uganda. Okay, Uganda, or Wakanda. Pun unintended. Some of the scenes in the Black Panther movie, if you watched it, were shot here in my neighborhood at Lake Punyonyi, which is one of the most beautiful places. Maybe you need to come for yourself to test that statement. So Uganda is right there in the middle of Africa, sitting astride the equator line. Beautiful destination. And let me use the facts to tell you where it's located. Uganda, to the east, is bordered by Kenya, home of the safari, magical Kenya. To the south, Uganda is bordered by Tanzania, cradle of man. Some of the most amazing safaris take place down here in Tanzania. To the north is southern Sudan, arguably the world's tallest human beings, and largely undiscovered because of the history of conflict there. To the west is the vast Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, largely unknown. I consider it the world's last safari frontier, but it's largely known as the natural resource capital of the world. And to the southwest is Rwanda. Beautiful Rwanda, Africa's most sensational destination. And so we lie right there, sharing the best of what all these countries have to offer. Okay, we have a little bit of what all these beautiful destinations have to offer. Uganda, could it be, as I was researching this, could Uganda be the diversity capital of the world? And you can see from the map right there of the East African Rift. So the left side is the Albertine Rift, which develops right here in the Murchison Falls National Park area, goes down to Lake Malawi, and then the right arm of the East African Rift Valley goes right past Uganda's eastern border, and Uganda lies there, as it were, in the open arms of the great African Rift Valley. Could it be? Could this be the diversity capital of the world? And this is because it has all kinds of habitats, from the Lake Victoria Basin to the Congo Basin to the Rift Valley, as I've said, to snow-capped mountains. Amazing place for the diversity of habitat for the birds. Then we have world's longest river. The River Nile develops right here in Uganda, and it starts its long trek to the Victoria, to the Mediterranean Sea. World's most powerful waterfall on the River Nile in one of our most beautiful national parks called Murchison Falls National Park. We have the world's tallest caldera, or highest caldera. This is the Elgon, Mount Elgon, which, if facts tell truth, was at one time higher than Mount Kilimanjaro, but because of erosion, it now remains there. But as the world's tallest caldera, amazing place to go hiking. It's the land of 1,000 waterfalls. Amazing, beautiful, beautiful place to go hiking. All that in Uganda. Africa's highest mountain ranges. Of course, Mount Kili is the tallest, but the highest ranges, like several ranges in the same place. The Rwenzoris are right here in Uganda, the world's primate capital. Chibale National Park, 14 primates, rather 13. The 14th will be driving you in the safari cruiser. We have the world's shortest men right here in the Gorilla Highlands, the Batwa. I sometimes doubt whether I'm not one of them. When you meet me, maybe you will conclude so. World's longest horned cows in the Anhole Plains. These cows are massive. They are all horn and nothing else. World's longest horned cows. You come, you'll see them for yourself. More than 50% of the mountain gorillas can be found in Uganda, within the borders of this beautiful small country. 57 tribes and 9 indigenous peoples in the same locality. Now, for a tribe, it has to have a language, To qualify as a tribe has to have a language, a special cuisine, special dress, special dance. Mine, the Kiga, the dance was discovered over in a season like this, season of sorghum, when people were drunk with sorghum porridge, spiced with honey, with fermented honey. They drank, they became tipsy. They said, let's bring down the house. And that's how my dance was born, the dance of my tribe. And we will zero in for this discussion on the Gorilla Triangle forests. These three, the Chuya Forest Reserve, the Mgahinga Gorilla National Park, and Bwindi Forest, these gorilla highland forests that are high on endemism, that are high on diversity. This is a place where you can't believe how beautiful this place is. You can't believe, it's unbelievable. And so that's where I'm talking from, somewhere there near Echuya Forest in the Kabale to the right. If you're looking at the map, Kabale is where I'm speaking from right now. This is the most beautiful place, most beautiful of places. Now, conserving for generations is the catchphrase for the Uganda Wildlife Authority, the caretaker, the steward for our national parks. And when you come to see the gorillas, and even when you haven't come for the gorillas, you'll see amazing stuff on the trail. For example, this picture was taken on a trip. I see, I think Johnny Kamgisha is on this call. He happened to take me along during one of those COVID spects when they would open the border, people would come, and he came with tourists. I was budding there in Bohoma, and he took me along for the budding, because I learned from anyone and everyone. This is one of the grandmasters of budding in Uganda. He took me along, and right when we had begun on the trail, we saw this sight, and I took this picture, gorillas crossing on the pathway. And we thought, what a way to save $700 in gorilla tracking fees, you know. Conserving for generations is the title or the catchword for the Uganda Wildlife Authority. And for me, these are some of the things that happen when you come budding in the Gorilla Highlands. You see gorillas sometimes, and it happens only once in a while. There are no promises here, but sometimes you can see gorillas on the pathway. One of the loveliest thing I've seen on a gorilla trek. This one time I go and I go along. I'm a driver guide, and I go along, and together with Chris, my client, we're watching this group, this beautiful group of gorillas. They are basking in the sun. Of course, the silverback keeps an eye on everyone to make sure that no one is disturbing his harem and his kids. And so we're watching them for close to an hour, and when it's about to end, the guide, the ranger guide says, "You take your last pictures. It's time to take your last pictures." And we say, okay. I squat down in front of the gorillas, and I want Chris to take my photo. He takes my photo successfully, and then it's his turn. He goes down, and then something happens. Two of the teenage gorillas become very curious, and they start running circles around him. Chris is frozen with fear. We are frozen with fear. We don't know what to expect. The ranger guide tells him, "Stay still. Stay where you are." Chris stays there for what seemed like forever. And when they slow down, they are running. The ranger guide says, "Rise and walk towards us." Chris rises, and right then one of the teenage gorillas tackles him on the leg like an American football player would tackle another. And Chris buckles just a little bit, almost falls over. Gorilla releases him, and he walks towards us, and all of us sigh. In Ruchiga. amazing, breathtaking experiences like this is what could await you on your next trip. So question number 1 for me is gorilla trekking, yes, and yes. But the question for me when COVID came was, if gorilla trekking was suspended for a little while, or even for a long while, then what? Why would we still need to conserve these forests? If something, God forbid, wiped out the gorilla populations, a disease, something, Dr. Gladys Nakalema, one of the geniuses in the Gorilla Highlands here, has realized, has proven that actually we can pass on our diseases as human beings to the gorillas. And so there's need to protect them from our diseases. But what if it was not for the gorillas? Would there be another reason why we should protect the gorillas? Yes, and yes. And so I will explore people and bird friendships. Because you see, here in the Gorilla Highlands, in the Kiga region, people have had a unique relationship with birds, to the extent that every clan in the Gorilla Highlands has a friend who is a bird. And of course, most people now, with this age, having forgotten, without the benefit of history, sometimes they'll think, they look at the birds and think about this that you're saying. This is a bishop on a sorghum plant, and it has pretty much destroyed this crop. But that's not the whole story. Not every bird, our people need to know that not every bird it's millet, not every bird it's sorghum. It's a diversity of almost limitless proportions. Some birds eat what people don't understand, they eat what people don't eat. So some people think this is birding. You are looking for what is eating their sorghum. But no, and we need to teach them that our people have been birding for a long time, and some of them have realized that not all birds really eat sorghum, eat their sorghum. And so our people, our clans had friends who were birds. And so the Muhutu people were friends with the firefinch. The firefinch was their friend, small little bird, one of the smallest birds, but it was their friend. And to cement their friendship, one time there was a famine. Story goes, there was a famine, and they were walking around looking for food. And these birds would help them to identify where the food was in plenty, because where they would have threshed millet from, that's where these birds would gather in plenty. So they took it as a signal. Our bird, our friend, is actually giving us a signal of where we can find millet and sorghum. So that's one clan, friend, bird. The Mujesera, another clan in this Kiga Highlands, are friends with the pied wagtail, the African pied wagtail. Now there's a story about this bird, because most times you'll find this bird limping with a disabled foot. It will have one whole foot, and then another foot will either be disabled or something. So the people say that it broke its leg kicking against the sky. And so this is a bird that is a friend to the people who are from the Mujesera clan. Of course, the sub-clans are many, and if you're from the Mujesera, if you're one of the Mujeseras, this is your bird. You don't kill it, you don't abuse it. Even when it comes and pecks on your food, you leave it, you give it peace. This is the friend of this clan. The next clan is Abahinda. The Bahinda's bird is the grey-crowned crane. This is the national bird for this country, Uganda. The Bamusiji. The closest I could come to Empungu Marere, the eagle, which has feathers like the banana fibers. The closest I could come is this aga buzzard. For them, this was their friend. Story goes that back in Rwanda, where they were living, Kasiji had a cow which was amazing. It would make a sound, a male, a bull, that would make a sound that would ring through the mountains. And the king wanted it, but Kasiji wasn't giving up on it. And so the king came for it. In Africa, when a king wants your wife, when a king wants your cow, you yield it gladly. But Kasiji was not the kind. He didn't yield the cow. They came for it. They killed so many Basiji, and so many died. And it was a cow that is known as Entengobe. So they took the Entengobe, they killed it, and they used it on a drum that the king would use to summon his people. So the Basiji were so disappointed, they started their long trek into what now is known as Uganda. And wherever they stopped for a break, this eagle would come and nest there every night. And then they realized this bird may have seen our misery back there because it is a meat eater. But instead of staying back there eating the dead bodies of our fallen comrades, it has come after us and it seems to be guarding us. It became their friend. So they love this bird and they don't kill it. And the Bamujiri, this is my mother's clan. They love this bird. The crow, it's notorious. It eats anything, especially rubbish. But it's amazing, adaptability-wise, amazing bird. And the Bamujiri love it. And one of those things that helped cement the relationship is when Ruyoka Rwamaganya, one of the Bamujiri sub-clans, is called the Bahimba. Ruyoka Rwamaganya had been killed on the battleground, and this is the bird that led his comrades there, where he had died. They had looked for his dead body, it wasn't to be found, and this bird led them there. So it became their friend with a cemented relationship. They don't kill it, and when you come here, you'll find so many of them. They don't get killed. The Abasiaba, they love the cattle egrets. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone very well for the cattle egrets, like I'll be saying later. Not very well because of their habitat being tampered with. So other birds in culture, the owls, not very good relationship, the owls, and this one is a spotted eagle owl. Or is it? The owls, when an owl, in the cultures here, when an owl makes a sound in your backyard, someone is going to die. Misconception, classic misconception, because these owls might be in breeding season, but when they make a sound, someone is going to die. And so now there's this one as well, the die of cough bird. When it's saying it will rain, the red-chested cuckoo is announcing the rain, because it's an intra-African migrant that follows the rains. When it's announcing the rain, the change of season, my people simply to think that it is saying die of cough, and sometimes someone dies. Because change of season means immunity levels sometimes dip, and someone who has been sick might actually die, and they might think this is the bird that has caused the death. So my people have been birding for a long time. The nest building legend, the hammerkop, builds massive nests, and in the people in these highlands and even beyond these highlands, this hammerkop, destroying its nest is prohibited. If you destroy it, you'll die, and some will say you'll fall, you'll become mad, you'll go bonkers, so you don't destroy its nest. So if it is nesting in a tree that you want cut down, or the wrong tree, some people have told us that you just put red flowers or a red piece of cloth, the hammerkop will start fetching water, trying to put to put out the fire. It will think the red is the fire, and then it will shift and leave the nest alone. But this bird has been conserved and preserved by a custom that says you can't destroy its nest. And partly the reason is because my people think it's a shifter. And so it builds a nest that is big and it has compartments. And so it uses only one compartment for nesting, and the other compartments an owl might walk in and nest there, a snake. And so when it flies in and an owl leaves, my people tend to think, this bird, it changes shape. It changes from an owl to something else. What kind of bird is it? So don't destroy the nest. You might displease the gods. The prostitute bird. This one is known among my people. You should have heard the stories I had as a teenager. You pluck off one of the feathers from this bird and you can tap any girl and they will follow you. They will follow you to your desire's end. So my people think this is a prostitute bird. And now I'm saying all this to show that actually my people have been birding for a long time. Bird watching is not something that's been introduced, and some people think it has been introduced by Mzungu, white tourists walking around. No. These people have been watching the birds intently. They think it's a prostitute because in the picture on the right, it goes after birds that don't look like it. And sometimes it's a harem, it's a lot of birds that don't look like it. So my people think, this bird must have the magic for how to convince the ladies. And so they think it's the selfless bird, the hadada. The hadada ibis, the selfless bird, because the sound it makes in one of the languages here is mpabana, I give to the children. So legend goes, there was man and wife who had children in a famine, and they gave their food. Instead of eating it, they always gave it to their children, and so they died of hunger, and they turned into ibises. And so they're always making a sound, mpabana, I give to my children. I give to my children. So this is the bird whose stories are told when selflessness is needed. Now, conservation question number 2 is, how do you love a thing and destroy their home? How do you love a thing and destroy their home? For the cattle egret, I bring it back because most of our swamps here have been dried up, and they are used as farms. They are used as farms. They are used as gardens for Irish potatoes. And so these egrets, they no longer live here. I took this photo from Mabamba Swamp on the Victoria Basin. They don't live here. They're luxury to see here because their habitat has been destroyed. They need permanent waterlogged swamps to nest. They're not there anymore. The cattle have taken priority. The food has taken priority. How do you love a thing and destroy their home? Maybe. Could it be ignorance? And so there's a love-ignorance relation. I can't call it a love-hate relationship. From swamps to farms. This flying grey-crowned crane is flying. I took a photo of it flying across a farm, like you're seeing the cows in the background. Plastic traps. I photographed this bird in an area where this bird is their friend, but it was flying around me with a trap of plastic in its neck. I was hurt. These people love this bird. They can't kill it, but it's trapped in a plastic trap found in the garbage bin, possibly. Nesting disasters. I was walking in a swamp recently, and this bird flies off the wattled lapwing. It flies off, and it started making circles around me. I think I was getting close to its eggs. It lays its eggs in the open on top of a mound or something. So I was getting dangerously close to what if I was a farmer who had come to till his crop. And so this bird was realizing this is a nesting disaster. We are destroying the habitat of these birds, and yet our cultures love these birds. But we have one of the places, it's an IBA, it's called Nyamuriro Swamp. It's a success story. They have sent the farmers outside of the swamp. They have retained the swamp in its original state, and it's amazing what you see. This is a Carruthers cesticola, beautiful. One of the places where you easily found it. You easily find it. This I've seen it once, photographed it once, never seen it again, because for some reason I think the birders have come there and they've called it over and over again. It's no longer responsive. You hear it, you don't see it again, but it's there. The papyrus yellow warbler, beautiful, beautiful bird to behold. And this is the white-winged warbler. White-winged warbler, it came so close. In fact, it came so close, you could take a picture like this. Beautiful, beautiful bird, because some people have realized that this swamp is important, and its label as an important birding area actually helped the situation. The farmers have left it alone, and now life is coming back. I've even taken some photographs that I need to cross-check with people, because it seemed like the birds don't really belong in that habitat, but they are there, they are back in place. And then we were looking for the papyrus canary when we found this bird. Never heard its voice. It was making a beautiful, beautiful call, and I went after it until I took this photo. Beautiful, beautiful bird. Of course, the picture denies us looking at it, all its beauty. It was looking the other side, maybe insecure about how close I was, but beautiful bird. So ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is not bliss. Some of these swamps had this bird. I don't know whether you can recognize it. Some of these swamps had this bird, but they have reclaimed them so badly that this bird can only be found in a few spots. And I photographed this bird in of course, now I've let you in on the secret growl swamp warbler. I photographed this bird in a secret swamp. Away from the beaten path. I got in a border with my friend, a bird guide called Gordon from Ruhija, one of the best there. I got into a border with him, and we went for a long time because I had known about this swamp. It is there. It started calling before we even arrived at the swamp. Gordon said, amazing, amazing. You can't find this bird reliably anywhere in Bwindi, in Echuya, but here it was in plenty. Because there's an organization in Uganda called Nature Uganda. It has conserved this small swamp, which was previously a school garden, and now these birds are there in plenty. It's like a sanctuary for them. But you see, the people here know about the birds that are common birds, garden birds. They know them, they have names for them, but there are birds that they don't have names for, which is the reason why we should conserve these forests. More reason than for the gorillas only. And so this on the left is the Eastern Mountain Green Bull. On the right is the starling. There's a starling, and then there's a canary, the yellow-crowned canary. I normally would see it on top of trees, tall trees, calling, making rounds in the morning. But then I was excited to see it in the neighborhood, down here, feeding. To the right is another double-collared sunbird. It's photographed in Ruhija. And then sometimes rare birds will come to my neighborhood as well. This one was photographed on a Sunday morning. I went to preach in one of the churches nearby, and the hosting reverend was surprised to see me jump out and and go after this Roha chat. It's not supposed to be here, but it's been extending its reach into my neighborhood. We're very excited to see it. And this olive thrush on the right was photographed in Mgahinga Gorilla National Park. It is just there. It's just there chilling around in the compound. I lay on my belly, took a photograph, and I thumped my chest. Yes, it's not very common down here, but up there is very common. And we have the Renzoria Palace, photographed here in a Chuya forest. These are birds that my people really don't know about, but they are there. Beautiful reason for conserving these forests. We have the Renzori Batis, Beautiful, beautiful bird. If you saw it, if you heard it singing, sings beautifully. Of course, I wish I had Johnny Kamugisha's whistling abilities. I'd whistle for you, and you'd have a feel for it. We have the strange weaver, and these are photographs. These are the virgin photographs I was telling you about. A beautiful, beautiful weaver. Of course, elusive, and it hides away. It doesn't want to be seen. Endemic to the Albertine Rift, a strange weaver. Strange, eh? But you see, seeing it like that is good enough. Then seeing it nesting is another story. Right on the roadside in a tree forest, it was a beautiful bird to see and behold. Then we have the Albertine bubu, beautiful bird, beautiful call, unmistakable. You're seeing this for the first time. Virgin photograph as well. This Apalis is beautiful and very responsive to calls. Of course, ethically speaking, we shouldn't be calling it too much, but when you call it, it responds, flies across, flies back. It's looking for who is coming into my territory. Endemic to the Albertine Rift, the red-faced woodland warbler, also endemic. Picture being seen for the first time here. And then, this is the best I have got. I should have a better picture, but this is the only time I've seen it close, but I had a fake camera, a fake lens. Okay, I'm abusing my equipment. This is not good. But that's all camera I had. It was raining. I'd been birding in the swamp. No luck at all. It was drizzling, and I stopped to look at a butterfly, and I had a whistling call. Psst, 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 psst. I looked up, and 5 meters away from me at eye level was the grower's broadbill. My hand was shaking. I couldn't stabilize the lens long enough, and it flew over my head to the next tree. And here it is very steep. You can't climb so quickly. It was lost on me. But this is a beautiful Albertine Rift endemic, seen in Ruhija, possibly only. And if you saw the nest I was holding in the opening picture, this is the nest for this bird, the stripe-breasted tit. Stripe-breasted tit. Their numbers were going dangerously low until the conservationists got concerned, and they started building nests for them, like I was holding. Because you see, here, the locals go into the forest and they remove firewood. The dry wood, they think it's useless, they remove it. And yet, that dry wood is, those dry stumps is what these striped-breasted tits would need to build nests, because they nest in the cavities. And so, the absence of these dry wood, dry stumps, caused the numbers of these birds to plummet until the conservationists built nests, tied them on ropes on the roadside. If you come maybe to see the gorillas or to bird, you'll see these nests, and the numbers have this resurgence, which explains, by the way, the banding on the feet. And so there have been conservation efforts to reintroduce these birds, and it's an amazing success story. Now, my final question, as my time is getting little, is how do we then conserve the batwa? How do we conserve the batwa? Because I've been guiding for 6 years. Previously, I didn't ask these questions. But one of the questions now is, we've gone a long way conserving the gorillas. We've gone a long way in conserving these forests, even for the birds. But how about the batwa? These short people, these amazing people, whose name actually in Kinyarwanda could be a short form for Batware, which means chiefs or kings. These kings, these warrior mercenaries of long time, these legends of music, these master field craftsmen of the forests, these survivalists, these amazing human beings. Instinctively, they are possibly the best at forest survival. How do we conserve them? Because you see, when gorilla conservation became a priority, they seemed to become second class or even third class citizens in their own turf, in their own territory. Now, just a little about their creation story. Now, the Batwa believe that their god, Jehanga, had 3 sons. Of course, every people, every indigenous people will have its own creation story. Jehanga had 3 sons. There was Gahutu, there was Gahima, and there was Gatwa, who is their descendant. So they claim that to Gahutu, Jehanga gave the volcanic soils, the fertile volcanic soils on the hillsides for them to plant their crops. And then they became farmers. To Gahima, he gave the plains, the open plains, and he gave cows for them to graze in these places. But to Gatwa, who was their descendant, he gave the forests for their hunting needs, because these are hunter-gatherers who used forests for their every need. In fact, for the Mutwa, a forest is not just a group of trees. It's survival itself. It's even a hospital. A forest is a hospital for the Batwa, because this is where they would get their food, this is where they would get their medicine, and their master medicine men, they are wed to the forest. But because of gorilla conservation, because of bird conservation, they have been expelled from these forests. Sad story, but some good stories now coming. For example, Dr. Scott came to see the gorillas some years past. He heard the story of the Batwa, and he said, no, something needs to be done. He bought back a big chunk of forest, of windy forest in the Bohoma sector, and gave it to the Batwa for them to go do their worshipping there, to do their medicine there, to go and do what the Batwa did before they were expelled from the forest. He then built one of the hospitals, one of the best hospitals in the region, Bwindi Community Hospital, which is a shining beacon of medicine in this region, and gave the Batwa free medical treatment. Of course, when it's free, it's abused. So they put 500 shilling as insurance, so the Batwa can be treated for free there. But that's just a drop in the bucket. How about the other Batwas who languish now for lack of how to adapt to the other people's way of living? Who languish now and they drink, who almost got wiped out by the scourge of AIDS, because it was believed that for a non-Mutwa, as medicine for backache, you needed to sleep with a Mutwa woman, and so many were slept with, and AIDS entered the equation and almost did massive damage to the Batwa community. How do we conserve the Batwa, whose heritage were the forests? And I have a suggestion, thought through and turned over in my head, and this is my suggestion. 100 Batwa, 100 binoculars, forest deployed. 100 Batwa, young men and young women. 100 binoculars. If possible, some should have cameras because they might actually show us some birds we haven't seen before. Forest deployed, because these birds know how to survive in a forest. They know the plants by their medicine. They know, and they used to live there, of course, as hunters. But if you teach them about the birds, the beauty of birds, if you employ them and they realize that it actually earns money to be a guide for birds, if you showed them the beauty of the forest outside hunting and poaching, these could actually be some of the best bird guides anywhere. Anywhere. This is my belief, because when I started birding, I thought I was just supplement my guiding activities. I'm now addicted. Friends, I'm addicted. I can't live without birding. It's been medicine for my depression. I've been semi-depressive for a long time until I started birding. There's even a verse in the Bible, look at the birds, do not worry. Uh, it's been an amazing adventure being a bird watcher in this country. And so I believe that if these Batwa were involved, because it's very possible that we can't let them hunt in these forests again. After all, there's little left for hunting in these forests. Hunting is not a sustainable activity. But what if we introduced them to the forests, reintroduced them to the forests, with binoculars in hand, with cameras, skilled Batwa young men, birding, guiding? What if? That's the question I leave for you as conservationists. What if we did this? Wouldn't it be a success story of beautiful proportions? Having said that, I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Derek, for allowing me to do this presentation. Thank you, everyone that came in. I hope to see you. I hope to see you. If you need a good guide, let me know, and I will connect you. This is what Safari Support Services does. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Over to you, Derek. Yes.
Thank you very much, Paul. I
Most
think you
welcome,
can stop
sir.
your screen share,
Okay.
and maybe we can put our cameras on, and see if there are any questions. If people have any questions, please can you just type them in the chat? Fascinating talk, wonderful photos. Thanks for an interesting, enlightening presentation. Great presentation. Lots of comments, but no questions yet. So given your proposal at the end, is there anybody working, or are you working on making that a reality?
Yes. Still in the beginning stages, still scouting for partners in the Batwa community. We've already talked to Semajeri, who is who has a group, who is a very organized young man who speaks fluent English, and who is willing to partner with us on this. We are thinking that since he has started a trail at Echuya Forest, we could use that as a point of entry.
Maybe some of the binocular companies would be good sponsors, you know, would be good promotion for their equipment, and good outreach for them as well. So Laura R asks, you talk about ignorance being the root cause of threats to birds. How did it spread? How can this reverence for birds be restored?
Okay, so ignorance is it doesn't spread, it's there. People don't know what they don't know, and somehow it's the default for when there is no knowledge. And so it's actually up to us who have known, because I was ignorant myself. I was a guide, 4 years, 5 years. I was a guide, and I was very good with the gorillas, with the cultures, but I didn't know about the birds. I didn't know about the relationships, about the usefulness, about how my people actually knew so much about the birds. They used to listen to the birds for the change of seasons. They used to tell what to eat, what not to eat by watching the birds. It was amazing how much they knew. But as generations came and went, we didn't know anymore. But it now falls our lot to teach our people, to enlighten them, to spread the knowledge. and maybe one day we will be worthy of our descendants who knew so much.
So we have a question from Nina. Nina
Mm.
Morris is asking, how can we help get those binoculars for the Batwa?
Yes, so I don't know, but we need to get these binoculars for the Vatwa. But how is a question of I don't know, of logistics really. It's a question of logistics, but the Batwa are now a bit more organized than they have ever been since their warrior days in the past. They have leaders, and so we can recruit these young people who are interested in birds, and we have some of the most amazing trainers for guides, one of whom is Herbert Biaruhanga, who initiated me in this industry. I was a lawyer before I met him. I was a guide thereafter, and I've never looked back. Herbert Biaruhanga is amazing. We can actually use him as a point of contact. He has been helping get binoculars for women. Why can't he help us get these binoculars for the Batwa, for these forest people? So we have contact people who have a track record of trust and training. We can use them as points of contact. But I'm also here very committed to the cause, if I may say that.
So there is a question about the bird
please.
from David Fiedler. The one bird that was shown was and that was mentioned as an eagle looked much like the red-tailed hawk in the U.S. Are eagles the same as hawks?
No.
In how the birds are categorized there?
They are not the same, but raptors, generally, raptors of that kind will be classified by my people as eagles. They won't tell. It was actually a buzzard, an aga buzzard. Okay? But my people will call all of them eagles. Because back then they had no way of telling a kite from a buzzard from an eagle. So they generalized, and so that's why I say this is the nearest equivalent of what they must have meant by Empungu Mariri.
Well, the term hawks and eagles aren't biological anyway. They're just they have to do with size and shape and behavior and things like that. And there are hawks and eagles in the same genus, so it's a bit of a hodgepodge anyway. Let's see. Are there some Batwa you have identified already who are interested in birding?
Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact. But my theory is that birding, the passion for birding gets born, and it grows with exposure, and especially exposure to people who are birding and they love it, they're passionate about it. Because sometimes the passion doesn't thrive in a space of ignorance. Before I knew about these birds, I wasn't passionate at all, but when I started birding with people like Herbert Biaruhanga, and I attended a class by Johnny Kamgisha, and I was in contact with Abia, who now is my superstar. Abia, I call her superstar because she guided a trip. I was a driver. I was ignorant, but by the end of the trip, I was smitten. Clearly smitten. So there are a few Batwa who are interested in birds already, but I believe that we can fire this up with knowledge, with exposure, and it's amazing what can happen when they know more than they now know about birding.
Eli Johannes says, can you give us an email or contact address to be able to send binos and books and etc.?
Well, so my email is, you want to reach out to me, please. My email is turyagumanawe@gmail.com. I will type it into the chat because that name Turyagumanawe at gmail.com. Now this is my personal mail, turyagumanawe at gmail.com. I will be glad to share with anyone and everyone who would be having questions about this proposal. But of course, like I've said, we have amazing trainers, amazing guides, like Herbert Berhanga, whom we can also contact for that. Yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat, Hillary, my friend from Rwanda, you brought your students to the class. I hope to see you someday. I hope to see you here some days, madam. Yeah.
Cool. Then we've got a question from Alma in Saudi Arabia asking, what is the name of the bird you saw when you were out looking for butterflies? I also missed that. The green one.
I beg your pardon?
The bird that you saw when you were out looking for butterflies. I think it was the green.
No, that is the grower's broadbill.
Oh, Grauer's broadbill.
So I was just looking at a butterfly, really. That was all my attention. And then I had the whistling. And it's the rarest of the endemics. Apart from the Shelley's crimson wing, which is really mysterious. This grower's broadbill is like the mountain gorillas of the birding world. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's the bird that surprised me at the butterfly flower.
Miriam is asking, can you share the recording? We are putting this on YouTube, aren't we? I can't remember. I have to go and check my notes, whether we're putting this on YouTube or not. But I think we are. Paul?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So it will be on YouTube.
Yes.
It will be a couple of weeks because I unfortunately have a day job and it takes me a while to get the editing done. So
Yes, I know. Yeah, and thank you very much, everyone, for your kind comments. I see them in the chat. Thank you very much. You're very, very kind.
there's a few other comments and questions, but I think we are probably going to need to call it a day. I'm just checking to see if there's any really important one that we should catch. Laura says, we have a project in Rwanda of compiling ethno-ornithological knowledge and exploring the use of conservation education. Given the high similarity, is there a good resource you would recommend? Could we also contact you for further collaboration? I think you've got your email address in the chat now. So Laura, you can get in touch with Paul via his email.
Yes, please contact me for further collaboration. I'm very open.
So lots of positive comments. East African Safaris, what is the name of your YouTube channel? It's Learn the Birds. You can go to learnthebirds.com, and at the bottom of the page, there is a link to our YouTube channel, or you can just go on YouTube and search for Learn the Birds with hyphens between the words. I can paste it in here, but first I have to go get it because it's not something that I keep in my memory. YouTube, change account, we Learn the Birds, and my channel and videos. Okay, so I'm going to paste it into the chat for those who want to Learn the Birds YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/c/Learn the Birds. And you will see. I think there is a video there. Also, two other videos from Uganda. One, the most recent one, about women and birding in Uganda, which is also there on the channel. Right. So thanks everybody for joining. And thanks, Paul, for a really, really informative and interesting presentation. I think
Welcome, sir.
Uganda is becoming a mecca for birding, and
Mm,
I'm really happy to see that.
as it should.
In my previous life, I've spent quite a bit of time in Uganda, but at the time I wasn't birding. So,
Mm.
okay, thank you everybody for attending, and I hope we will see you all um, at the next webinar in July.
Thank you very
Bye
much.
bye.
Bye bye.